Mikee P, Mike Probosi back in the Money Players podcast. That's Assiniboia time again. Early week Assiniboia Downs and fresh face, but not fresh to the network, but fresh to Assiniboia Downs on these shows is Will Humphrey, who is doing busy work, exercise, riding for the Grand Motion Stable, amongst other things, doing handicapping for Laurel and helping us out on some podcast. Will, welcome to the Assiniboia joint here.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, as you say, first time I've been on the Assiniboia show with you, but I love watching and playing Assiniboia actually. So yeah, I'm excited to get involved here.
Well, we're looking at late pick fours, and we've been watching Assiniboia late pick fours since we started this meet. And the pools just keep going up and up and up. They started the meet with a guarantee of $25,000 on this late pick four. We got $1 minimum, obviously. Now they're up to $50,000. But last week, Will, they raced 3 days. The pick four pools on those 3 days: 134, 137, 154. So lots of money being bet into that late pick four to Assiniboia.
Yeah, and quite rightly so. I mean, it's good racing and competitive racing, and often throws up some fairly hefty prices as well. So plenty of ways you can get creative in these sequences, and this sequence looks no different to me.
So low takeouts again in Assiniboia. We know we love their starting times. 8:30 Eastern time is the first race. The pick four, late pick four, usually goes about 9:50 Eastern, sometimes closer to 10 o'clock, depending on how the races go that night. But this week, pretty nice sequence on Tuesday here. Start with a really nice race, Will. This is a condition allowance race. These are some of the best horses on the grounds here at Assiniboia. Now, they're going 7.5 furlongs, so a little bit of a stretch out from some of these horses that were coming back early in the meet at those 5.5 distances. Going 7.5, of course, 2 turns at Assiniboia. How are we going to kick off this dollar pick four on Tuesday?
Mike, I actually found this one of the more difficult races to handicap in this sequence, purely because there is such a lack of speed in here. We'll start off talk about the one exacting who's been pegged as the even money morning line favourite. And I do think that you've got to use this horse going out for the Steve Keplin barn. We know that Steve Keplin absolutely kills it up in Assiniboia. And this horse absolutely loves the track too. Three wins, 3 seconds and a third from 9 starts, and actually won a stakes here at Assiniboia last year. His last 2 starts at the track have produced bar speed figures 77 and 73, which obviously make him very competitive in here. And that 73 last time out, that came over an inadequate trip of just 5.5 furlongs. But he was outpaced early, but then rallied really strongly late to finish just a length and a half behind in second. Now stretches back out to a more suitable distance to here. That should allow him to be more comfortable in the early stage of the races, and I do think that he definitely would be worth using on the ticket. But I don't think that it's just a one-horse race here at all. You look to the outside in the 6 Blazing Bow, going out for Michael Nolt. Now, this horse has actually knocked heads with exacting multiple times before and actually beat him when winning the R.J. Spears Memorial Stakes here at the track last year. He returned in the same race that exacting ran in last time and finished third to that rival. So he's got a little bit of ground to make up. However, Blazing Bow was returning from a 246-day layoff in that race, and although the chart comment says rallied and then hung, to me it was more a case of he made this big, wide move on the bend, and the lack of match fitness just simply caught him out in the stretch, and in the end, exacting blew by him. But I predict that he's going to strip fitter this afternoon, or on Tuesday, I should say, and gets back out to a more suitable distance. 7.5 definitely going to suit him better. And he's also drawn better as well. Last time he drew the rail. Today he draws on the wide outside at gate 6. And I think that from there he can maybe be a little bit tactical, stretching out to 7 furlongs. And I can definitely see him jumping back up to be competitive. I hate taking 3 horses in just a 6-runner field, but there is one more horse at a bit of the chunkier price that I'll also use in here, Mike. It would be the 4 Corridor. I mentioned earlier that there is really not any speed in this race at all, and to me, I think that Corridor could end up on the on the lead here. And this gelding comes into the race in really strong form. He's hit the exacta in all of his last 4 starts and was really good, winning over 5 furlongs last time. In that race, 2 horses return next time to win their next starts with bar speed figures of 70 and 72. And if that form holds up strong here, although his current form leaves him with a little bit to find with Exacting and Blazing Bow, if those 2 horses have returned to run bars of 70 and 72, this horse is heading in the right direction. And I think that if he shakes loose on the lead early, with the form he's in, he could be quite hard to catch. So, yeah, 1, 4, and 6 for me in this race, Mike.
Yeah, I do think this sequence has a couple of races where you can shrink down later, and I do find this race difficult and one you probably need to spread out in. I'm not going to use Exacting in here. I just think that now last time he's probably going to get bet off of that line, and it was weird. He was completely off the screen, and then he just showed up in the last 5 jumps and just flew late to get by Blazing Bow. I do think this distance suits Blazing Bow a lot better than Exacting. And if you look back last year, he got really sharp at the racetrack. I mean, won 3 straight races at the top level. I mean, he was just going great guns, and he probably shouldn't have lost the race on August 27th last year either. So I agree with you on that line last time. It was more like, okay, he needed a race. And that was a big, I think, tightener for him, as you said. I like him right back in here. I do think that the distance will make him very difficult to overcome, especially if Exacting gets so far back again. Really, there's no way that if he has to catch Blazing Bow, he's going to catch him this time. I think that Blazing Bow will finish the job, but there's others you can use in here. I thought for a price of Pinky Ring Bling, the 2 had a little bit of a look, and this horse came up from Houston last time for Jason Gourneau and ended up second in a race that Totalizer won. That, Totalizer got a decent ride, a decent trip in that race to beat him. Now they stepped this horse up off a nice tightener over the racetrack. This horse has 7 lifetime wins, plenty of shares. I do think could be forward in a race where a lot of horses want to come from off the pace. So he's interesting to me, and he's a little bit of a price. And then I would use Corridor also. Claimed for 75 at Farner, shipped up, was able to get a nice win. A couple came back to win. You mentioned steps up again. I do, and the jockey sticks. There's a lot to like about this horse. And again, 8-1 morning line. A lot of money will flow through the 1 and the 6 in this pick 4. We're going to need some prices going forward because I think that there's some short odds coming up in this sequence. So definitely 6 on the top end. 2 and 4 also use in this dollar late pick 4 on Tuesday. Jump to race number 5 here, and that's 7.5, Will. Non-winners of 2 lifetime. I was going to go too deep in this race, and the 7 Bennigan's pretty obvious here. Comes in off the claim for Bill Mooney, and that barn is 25% off the claim. Short sample size there, but it's proven that they can claim one and get a W in the next start. Raced pretty well last time to be second, and that figure towers over most of these. I do think this horse will be forward again. Just needs to finish the job. So one that I would definitely use in the race. And then I'm going to try the 2 No Magic again. I thought that was a tougher race last time than this one is. Has faced better horses if you look back. Now, a lot of state-bred lines last year, but some of those horses would be tough in this race. Horses like No Show, No Call would be, I know he's a state-bred horse, but his numbers would play well versus these horses. I do think that he's third back. You get a little bit of an increase in distance to 7.5. This horse could be closer, probably should be a little better, and could be finishing. So I like the 7, use a little 2. What say you here?
Interesting. I actually leaned against the 7 in here, and I completely get the case for him. But I've just felt that he's had absolutely no excuses in his last 2 starts. And I know that bar speed figure you ran last time, the 42, definitely jumps off the page at you. But you look at the 2 horses to run back from that race, the 1st and the 4th place finishers. They ran bars of 17 and 15 in their next 2 starts. And that just makes me start to wonder how legitimate that 42 bar speed figure is. And yeah, as I say, I just felt that he's had no excuses recently. I'm not really convinced that he wants to stretch out 7.5 furlongs today. And I think that he is vulnerable in this spot at a short price. I was actually going to land and single a horse who you didn't mention in here, Mike, which would be the 1 Valid Print. valid defense going out for Wendy Anderson, who traded the winner at Assiniboia last Wednesday. Now, this was entered the race off a fourth place finish where he ran just a bar speed figure of 29. However, that effort came off of a lengthy 274-day layoff, and it was against tougher company than he faces today. You look at the horses that were in that race: Double Time, Maybella, Prairie Drifter. They would all be very, very competitive in here. And it's 5 furlongs as well. It was also a little bit on the short side for him. He stayed on late, but just had too much work to do. I think that he's going to strip it much fitter today as he makes his second start off the layoff and round back into form, stretching back out to 7.5 furlongs. If you look at his form from last year, he ran bar speed figures of 58, 52, 46. They're all good enough to win this. And also, a key piece of form was was the lines from his run on May the 27th last year to June the 12th. His first run off the layoff, going 5 furlongs, he ran in a very similar style to the way he ran last time out and earned a 45 bar. Then he stretched out 7 furlongs in his second start off the layoff and jumped up to run a 58 bar. I can see him making a similar sort of jump here, and if he does take that same sort of step forward and round back into similar form as he showed last year, I think he'll be tough to beat in here.
I get it, and I understand this horse has back lines, but it also seems like a give up to me. I mean, this horse last year was facing really tough horses at this track. Horses like Lieutenant Norm, McEwen. Those are nice horses here. Those are protected allowance races that this horse, pretty much still fits in. And now they're in for 5,000. And so that to me, especially coming off that layoff, and then this horse basically had its worst race in a couple years. Now, I don't know. I mean, he's going to have to prove it to me, and it's going to certainly take money. So that one, I get it, and certainly could beat me here. With the 7 getting claimed, new barn, that could help with a little bit of improvement. You get a jockey switch. I mean, there's things to like about that one. And he has some back lines, too, if you look back, some of those Turf Paradise lines. Obviously, not the same lines as the 1, but I do think that it's a number as a 2 for 5,000. I mean, so you're going to have horses that look like this in this race. So certainly a couple different ways to go there. Race 5, Assiniboia. I think a couple of those horses will take money. Change in distance should make it interesting. Race 5, trying to get through this dollar pick 4 on Tuesday. Jump to race number 6 here, going 5.5. It's maiden special weights. Will the 4? Wow. That's what these said. Tricky name. I would say short price. With or against?
With. I will be using. That's what he said is that's what I believe said. The correct way to pronounce it, Mike. Yeah. Look, this runner definitely jumps off the page. Ran a 48 bar on debut, and that race was pretty legitimate. 3 next out winners came out of that race, and then he ran a bang-up race again next time, chasing home a 1-9 favorite in Art Nouveau. Regressed slightly on the bar speed figure, but I felt lost nothing in defeat. And there's nothing of Art Nouveau's quality in this race, and that surely leaves the door wide open for him to get the job done at a short price in here. But I will also use the 8 as well, Frackaloo, who actually finished 3rd in that same maiden special weight last time out. Now, that was Frackaloo's debut, so he was lacking experience compared to, that's what he said, and ran greenly early on, was quite a way back, and then was extremely wide on the bend, way out in the 8 path, but really finished with great energy and rallied strongly through the lane to finish 3rd. He ran to me like a horse who really needed that experience, and I can see him jumping up today. He's got 2 3/4 lengths to make up on, that's what he said. But having shown that promise and ability on debut, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that he can take that leap forward today. And I'll use the 2 of them to get by safely in this race.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're pretty obvious there. It's going to be the 4, the 8 here, unless the first timer maybe has something. The 5. I have a hard time looking at these now, and I don't want to mispronounce anything. Twilight Ride, the 5, 8-1 morning line. First timer there. You get Lasix, you get a 10-pound apprentice. And That jockey's got the first win lifetime a couple weeks ago. And this barn doesn't necessarily win with first timers. It's a 4-year-old filly first timer, but you're dealing with a race where I do think that some of these need to find some form. So you get a first timer in here, a stranger in here, I do think could have a chance. But the 4 and the 8 are very obvious coming out of the same race. And, the 8, you could get a little bit of value there, especially second time out, made up plenty of lengths in the stretch last time. The 4 is probably going to be the one to catch in the stretch, though. And one of those two probably win race 6 on Tuesday. Go to the last, and we're going 5.5 to finish, Will. This is 3 claimers, lots of conditions, horses that haven't won a race since December of last year. How are we going to get paid?
Well, Mike, I think a key race to focus on here is race 2 from Assiniboia on May the 29th. 27th, I should say. Where the 2 favourites, Diamond Grand and Jamming Eddie, ran 2nd, 3rd, and the 4 Exotics Bear ran 4th. Sorry. Now, Diamond Grand beat both Jamming Eddie and Exotics Bear in that spot, but I don't really want him in here. I felt that of the 3 of them, he was sent off at the biggest price, and I felt that he got the best trip. He saved ground throughout. He's 1 for 15 lifetime, and his overall profile just certainly doesn't set him apart at all in this race, and I think that he's beatable in here. The 4 Exotics Bear, I'm going to make my top pick in here. I don't believe that the 15-1 morning line is going to hold up, but should be a bigger price than Diamond Grand and Jamming Eddie. And I felt that this horse sat the worst trip of the 3 of them last time, was dueling in between horses throughout, which is a really tough spot for a horse to be in. And I felt that if he had either been on the outside or the inside, there really wouldn't have been much between the 3 of them at the line. There was only a length and a half between the 3 of them anyway. And I feel that as he now makes his 3rd start of the form cycle, cutting back to 5.5 furlongs, with a £10 bug now taking over, I think that makes him very, very interesting in here, because as I've said on other shows in the past, Mike, £10 with these lower level claimers, it really does make a lot of difference. I think that he could even get leads himself here, and if he can, rekindle some of the form he showed last year, I mean, he ran multiple 60-plus buyers, and I think that he's definitely good enough to win this race at a bit of a price in here. The 2 Jamming Eddie, I do think that you've also got to use. Now, he finished 3rd in that race that I was previously talking about last time, but now makes his first start for the Keplin barn, moves from a 15% trainer to a 34% trainer who strikes at 33% off the claim, and he's run well enough in his last 2 starts, and you have to give him some respect with this barn switch. It won't be a surprise to see him jump up and go very, very close here. And the 3 Argentina Cries also interests me in this spot. Ran 4th with just a 32 bar last time out, but that race was decent. The 1st and 2nd place finishers returned to both win next time out with bar speed figures of 60, 65 and 55. And that was Argentina Cry's first run off of a near 200-day layoff. The race didn't really set up well for him. They went slow, and he was towards the rear and stuck wide. Trying to close into a quickening pace whilst giving away ground is a very difficult spot to be in. And he also only had 4 workouts leading into that race. So I predict that he's going to step forward, and with a better setup today, he proved in the past that he's definitely capable of mixing it with these types of horses. And, with the right trip, just sitting behind the speed here, I think that he's a big player as well.
Yeah, I like the 3 a lot. And Argentina Cries, nice comeback race, I thought, considering a couple horses came back to win there. You get a jockey switch here. It's second back. This horse was claimed for $2,500 back in October at Century, but was racing in upper level claimers there and racing very well last year. Now, 1 win, but plenty of shares. And I do think that the jockey switch is going to make a difference here. There's a lot to like, I think, about the 3 Argentina Cries second back. You mentioned all those horses that raced in the same race. You didn't like Diamond Grant, but I don't mind him necessarily. I thought in that race, at least, he sort of won the battle but lost the war. I mean, there was quite the duel there, and he just kept digging on the inside. He was inside, but he was never giving up, and he ended up getting beat by the 1-9 shot. Yeah, but he ended up out-dueling the rest of them in that race. And I do think that there's something to be said for that, especially coming off the layoff. This horse had some toughness, some gameness, wanted to fight for it there, and now gets that little bit of a tightening. I know hasn't won in a couple years, but the 5-year-old mare, I do think, versus these horses, I think plays pretty well, especially off that last effort. So I think 3 and 5 are sharp. If you want an upsetter, you want a long shot type, maybe the 1 Westover could sneak onto the ticket here. This horse was racing here last year at higher levels, was claimed for 7,500 back in August of last year, was competitive versus those horses from off the pace. Was just claimed for 4 back in September. It's been a minute. They come back now in for 3, but this is the lowest level this horse has seen for a long time. I do think that maybe versus this class of horse, if this rally shows up from last year, that this horse could be rolling late. 15-1 morning line would play very well in that late pick 4 on Tuesday to finish up. Well, I think it's an approachable sequence. It could chalk out a little and pay less than $100, or maybe we can upset a couple of these favorites. You're going to jump into Assiniboia Tuesday night.
Yeah, I will be, Mike. It's like you say, there's a couple of races that look a little bit chalky, but at the same time, for example, this last race that we just talked about, there's multiple ways that you can go, and you can quite easily make solid cases for 15-1 shots. So I think there's a strong chance that this could pay fairly decently, and yeah, I'll certainly be getting involved.
Jump into Assiniboia on Tuesday. Remember, low takeouts. We had the perfect time of day. Not much going on Tuesday nights, so Assiniboia doing fantastic handle. Those late pick 4 pools are well over $100,000. There's a $50,000 guarantee. No need to worry about that. It's going to go way over that. Pretty soon, we're going to end up with a $100,000 guarantee the way they've been pumping through the windows at Assiniboia. Will, appreciate you joining me. Always good to get to, thoughts from you. What's up with you? I just get a little thoughts from you before we go. How's things for you? I know you're hanging out in the Motion Barn. He certainly has plenty of top horses in the country. You're back at Fair Hill. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, riding at Fair Hill. Lucky to be sitting on some very nice horses every morning, and then doing work for In the Money Media and the Maryland Jockey Club, handling the Laurel stuff for In the Money Media in the afternoon. And yeah, we came off the back of a really strong May. Horses to follow in May, we hit at 33% at average odds of 4.4 to 1. So that was certainly very successful, and that pretty much keeps me busy, Mike.
Yeah, well, we certainly know that you do the work, and a strike rate like that, you should be following Will's picks. Will, we're going to run it back soon, especially you give us some winners here. We might, no good deed goes unpunished. Maybe we'll bring you back to some more Assiniboia as the meet goes on. But appreciate having you here, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.
This has been a production of In the Money Media. Join us every week for Assiniboia Downs. Check out the network. Get on the YouTube channel. Lots of recapping from Belmont Week. PTF does a show with Nick. He has a show with JK this week. Lots of stuff coming over the next couple weeks and beyond. So jump in the YouTube channel. Check us up on the LAO side. We'll see you all next time.